So if your brain feels like it's running in slow motion, your child can't process instructions quickly or struggles with coordination, then or you're dealing with anxiety, focus issues, and sensory overload, there's a good chance that myelination could be involved. Myelination is one of those most essential but not very well talked about factors in brain and nervous system health. And when it's disrupted, it affects everything from attention to emotional regulation to movement. Hi, I'm Lisa Andy Garcia, and I help people optimize their brain health so they can feel calm, focused, and productive. And if that sounds like something that you want more of in your life, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you don't miss any of the tools and education that I share each week. Today we are getting into a little technical topic, but I promise to make it clear and actionable, and we are talking about myelination and what it is, how it works, what slows it down, and how you can support it at any age. So myelination is the process of forming a protective coating called a myelin sheath around the axons of your neurons. This coating acts like insulation on an electrical wire, so that plastic coating. It helps nerve signals travel quickly, accurately, and efficiently throughout your brain and the body. So when you have that wire and some of the plastic is missing, and it's going to cause misfirings or it's just nothing good's going to happen out of that. So without poor myelination, the signals in your body, especially in your brain, they slow down. The communication between neurons is delayed or disrupted. The processing speed, reflexes, and coordination, they all suffer. This process starts in utero and continues into early adulthood, especially in areas like the prefrontal cortex, which handles executive function, decision making, and emotional control. But myelin also needs maintenance throughout life because inflammation, nutrient deficiency, stress, and toxin exposures all can damage it. So specialized glial cells, they're called oligodendrocytes. They are in the central nervous system, and Schwann cells are in the peripheral nervous system. So the central nervous system would be like the brain and the spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system is like all the other parts of your body. And these glial cells wrap around axons and produce layers of myelin sheaths. These sheaths are 80% fat and 20% protein, and they form gaps called nodes of Ranvier, which allows signals to jump up and down the axon in a process called saltatory conduction. So if you've ever seen a picture, they're like these little kind of segments, and so the impulse jumps from one to the other to the other. And this jump is what makes the signal transmission fast, like broadband for your nervous system. When myelin is damaged, signals can kind of leak or slow down, leading to cognitive and motor issues in conditions such as multiple sclerosis, ADHD, autism spectrum disorders, demyelinating neuropathies, traumatic brain injuries, age-related mental decline, brain fog, slow mental processing, poor coordination on motor delays, speech or language processing issues, emotional dysregulation, sensory overload, and hypersensitivity. All of those different conditions are related to myelination. So what disrupts myelination? We have nutrient deficiency, especially when you're deficient in choline. So that's a precursor to phosphatidylcholine and acetylcholine. Phosphatidylcholine is like a fatty lipid. Acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter. B12 is a cofactor in methylation we've talked a lot about in the last 2 weeks, and myelin repair. Folate needed to support methylation, so that's number 3. So we have choline, B12, folate, essential fatty acids such as especially DHA up in the brain, which makes up a significant portion of myelin, and iron, which is needed for oligodendrocyte function and myelin enzyme activity. So that's all nutrient deficiencies. Then we have impaired methylation, what we've talked a lot about. So methylation supports myelin repair by producing SAM-E, which contributes methyl groups for phospholipid synthesis and myelin maintenance. Inflammation and oxidative stress. Cytokines can damage oligodendrocytes and slow myelin formation. Chronic inflammation degrades existing myelin. Environmental toxins such as heavy metals, mercury, lead, mold toxins, solvents, they can disrupt myelin integrity and glial cell health. I will tell you that when my son was little, the person that lived behind our house, he spray painted stuff for a living, cars, or I don't know what he was doing, or he had solvents, and you could kind of always smell it. So I'm sure that was a huge culprit. And one time when I tested him for chemicals, he did have a lot of chemicals in his system. Blood sugar instability. So we need glucose is needed for glial cell energy metabolism, but extreme highs and lows damage the vessels that nourish the white matter. And chronic stress. So elevated cortisol disrupts neurogenesis, mitochondrial function, and nutrient absorption, all of which compromise myelination. So you may not see a myelination test per se on standard labs, but what you can look at to suggest myelin-related problems are low B12 or MMA on an OAT test, elevated homocysteine, neurological symptoms like tingling and numbness, slow processing, speech delay, poor reflexes, sensory overload, emotional volatility. In kids, signs of myelination might look like delayed milestones, right? They're not crawling or walking or talking on time, poor coordination, auditory or visual processing issues, trouble shifting attention or integrating sensory input. So here's how you can support myelin production and maintenance throughout through a functional lens, right? So we have methylation nutrients. So we've talked about B12, B6 in the P5P form, magnesium. They all support SAMe production and myelin repair. If methylation is sluggish, homocysteine builds up, which can damage myelin and slow repair. Then we have healthy fats. Prioritize DHA from wild fish or algae, phosphatidylcholine from eggs, sunflower lecithin, and saturated fats like grass-fed butter and coconut oil in moderation, right? We need a lot of healthy fats. And these are going to help build and reinforce the lipid layer of the myelin sheath. So not only does our cell wall compose of a lipid bilayer, so it's 2 layers of lipids, but the myelin sheath, so on the nerve, is all made up of fat. Your brain is made up of fat, okay? Then we have choline-rich foods. Those are egg yolks, liver, sunflower seeds, and beets. They're all fantastic. Choline is a precursor to acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter, and it supports phospholipid production. Anti-inflammatory lifestyles. So you don't want to be using the seed oils. And when I mean seed oils, I mean like most of our seed oils are processed. If it's processed and heated, then no. If you have like a cold pressed seed oil, then that would be okay, but most of our seed oils are not cold pressed, so you just would have to be very careful about which one you're buying. And then ditch the excess sugar. And add antioxidant-rich foods such as berries, turmeric, rosemary, and green tea. And consider glutathione support for repair after injury or chronic stress. And then we have nervous system regulation. So myelination is stimulated by activity, but only when it's in a calm, non-threatened state. We can use gentle rhythmic movements. So we have rhythmic movements from rhythmic movement training, so if you want to know more about that, let me know. Or like walking or swinging or crawling patterns for kids. So the more, that's like why when we always tell kids should not ever skip the crawling stage, and if they do, just take them back and make sure they crawl a lot when they're babies, because they are myelinating their brain when they're through that crawling. And it will also help support sensory integration. Sleep, especially deep non-REM sleep, is when myelin repairs happen, so it's a non-negotiable. You need your sleep, okay? So both kids and adults under myelinized brains can often show up as mental slowness, sensory overwhelm, poor recovery from stress, motor delays and coordination issues, and emotional dysregulation. So if you've been dealing with a vague set of neurological symptoms, or your child has processing delays diagnosis, supporting your myelination might be one of the missing pieces. Also in tinnitus. Tinnitus has a lot to do with, there's a lot of things I think that can be underlying like a lot of heavy metals and stuff. But focusing on fats and myelination is I read a whole book on that once. So whether you're supporting a child's development or trying to restore your own cognitive clarity, myelin integrity is a foundational piece of something that you should be looking at. So if this helped you understand your brain or your child's at a deeper level, give this video a thumbs up and hit subscribe. And if you want to find out whether your symptoms could be tied to disruptive myelination, check the link in description to book a free call. We'll look at your nutrient status, symptom patterns, and nervous system function and create a personalized plan to get your brain firing smoothly again. Your brain was designed for speed, precision, and resilience, and myelination is how you are going to get that back. All right, everybody, I will see you next week. Bye-bye.